Okay, I'm going to start over. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the weekly webinar. We are now recording, so keep that in mind. And thank you for muting. If you need to have any questions or comments in the chat, and you will, especially for this weekly webinar, please use the chat feature. I was going to say, until I remembered that I need to record this, happy 100th day of the year. Today is Thursday, April 10th, and it is the 100th day of the year. So if you are the sort of person who likes to make lists and check things off, or organize things, or just sort of be in some kind of order, know that today is the 100th day of the year. We have 265 to go, and at least around my house, I think my environs have realized it's springtime and the weather is getting better. I'm actually coming to you today from Atlanta, Georgia. The background I found just before we started, is of Georgia wildlife. I got to go outside and find where Georgia is purple because that's my kind of place. I'm here for another conference, and it's been lovely. And they have given me the grace and the space to step away so that I can be with you. I'm glad I made it because all day today I have been worried about, will I know when it's 2 o'clock Central Time? And I've set all kinds of alarms. So it looks like I worked that out pretty well. So enough about that. Again, happy 100th day. I think I've got all the housekeeping notes. Everybody looks like you are in compliance with those. Thank you. And folks continue to come in, which is very exciting. I'm always excited about the webinar. I get a little bit more nervous when I'm the presenter because I feel a sense of needing to make it really good. So I'm very gratified that people are here today and not saying, oh, it's just Kelly, we'll take a break. Or if you're new here and your first time, welcome, you're in for something. And I'm so glad to have you all. And I see in the chat, it looks like the Smoky Mountains. Thanks for the clue. I'll have to see if I can't track that down. I'll be here through Tuesday. And mostly I'll be in the conference. I'm also getting to visit some of my relatives, and my mom is traveling with me, which has been such a blessing. I don't know if she'll get on the webinar today. She's with some of our relatives. She might be having more fun. So anyway, enough about that. Let's go ahead and get going with today's topic, which is super exciting. Brain Boosters Live. And I'm going to put up a slide for that in just a moment. But before I do, I want to welcome back our speaker, my co-speaker for today, someone who is always makes me so happy to see on the webinar because he's just a friendly, wonderful guy. And he usually puts his camera on, so I had someone to sort of focus on. And he smiles and laughs at my terrible jokes. And he is a great fount of information. And of course, I am talking about David Byer. David has done a brain games presentation for us before, about March of last year. And so he is definitely in the inspiration for today's topic. Everything that's great about today is due to David, and everything that needs help is due to me. Okay, we'll just split that right now. And I'll tell you a bit more about David. He has a PhD in physics, applied physics, and is a retired NASA astrophysicist, which is just wonderful. I mean, did you ever even think you would get to meet, let alone speak to, a retired NASA astrophysicist? And now you have one right here in front of you. And David is also an educator. His degrees are from Rockhurst and Stanford and UMKC. Not only is he a really smart science guy, David also keeps himself active and occupied doing jigsaw puzzles and writing and cooking. He probably never should have told me that he has a swimming pool in his backyard, because just saying, that sounds awesome. And so we are super lucky to have David Byer with us to talk about brain boosters today. You all know enough about me, which is that I host the webinar every Thursday and really enjoy that, really enjoy bringing brain topics to you today. One more thing about me, just because I have to say it. Today is April 10th. It's the 100th day of the year. Also, fun fact for me, today was my mother's original due date for me. I was supposed to be born today. And so every time it's April 10th, I get a little excited. But I actually already had my birthday, which is March 14th. I got here a little bit early. And I tend to be an early person for most things. So I wonder if that just has something to do with that. So, anyway, Let me pull up some slides on the screen and we will get going. Let's see. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. There are no particular rules for this today except for enjoy, use the chat, unmute yourselves if you want. There are no wrong answers, no pressure. We're not grading this. And I also make no promises that this will actually boost your brain. It has boosted mine because I had fun coming up with it. But other than that, this is just to kind of think about how we use our brains, and we'll talk about some of those highlights. So I don't know if anybody but me and maybe a few of my colleagues know this, but we get some information when we send the My Alliance newsletter to you out every week. We get information about what you click on, and what you read and what you don't read and what's interesting to you. And besides David Byer and his intelligence, we know that the Brain Booster is very, very popular. It is almost always the most commonly clicked link in the newsletter every week. I mean, beyond the education classes, beyond the research, beyond anything else, you all click on that Brain Booster every Monday. And so it's fun to think that that is appealing to you in some way. So that's where I got the idea for today. Well, let's try some brain boosters together. Let's see what we can come up with. And then after that, one of the scientific important part, which David can tell us more about maybe, is that brain boosters do a lot to help us with our executive function, our language skills. They help us to think about logic, memory, multitasking, visual processing, spatial processing. So it's not just me trying to stump you. It really is thought to provide a way for people to use all those good brain skills. And because I can't be super nerdy all the time, I like to make the brain boosters match whatever the seasons are, whatever holidays there are, and then some acronyms that I use for myself, TILTs and WILTs. I won't ask you if you know what those stand for. If you do, good for you. Welcome to my mind. But TILTs for me are things I learned today, and they can be random. They can be the vocabulary word of the day. I see my mom just joined us. Mom and I drove to Manhattan on Tuesday of this week to give a presentation. And Manhattan is from my house is about a 2-hour drive. And we left early in the morning and came back late in the evening. And so I needed some help staying awake. So on the way there, my mom gave me a quiz on our family members and asked me to name whose cousin and how old are they and what order. Let me tell you, I did not as well as I should have on that. And then on the way back from Manhattan, I had pretended to class all day. I was sleepy. So she quizzed me on vocabulary words. And so we were like a brain booster in the car. So I had things I learned today and words I learned today. And all of those contribute to the brain boosters that I put together for you. And you probably have figured out that I'm a big lover of puns, and that's from my English degree. Okay, and then finally on this slide, I'm always excited to hear your suggestions and yes, your corrections. I love those of you who tell me that I messed up on one of the brain boosters or you have a better answer than I did. So please, when you have those, send me an email. All right, so we're going to go to the first one. This one's kind of a warm up. And if you read the My Alliance newsletter this week, and a lot of you did, I saw you clicking, one of the questions was, do you know what the 100 most popular words in the English language are? And I invited you to make a list and think about, if you could pick the top 100 or even the top 10, what do you think the most common, most frequently used words in English are? And before I reveal the answer, that was my reveal sign. Anybody want to put in the chat or unmute yourself? And what do you think the most popular words are? Peggy G. Loeb, I see you unmuted.
I did. I use pronouns.
Pronouns. Oh, pronouns are popular, aren't they? Okay.
And then I used one of them I was surprised was not there. I used who, what, when, where, and why.
Yes.
And one of those is not there, and I was surprised. And it's one of my favorites.
Well, I think I know what it is, and I have to tell you, audience, my mom and I are together in Atlanta, and as I was working on these slides last night, I did not give her the answers. We did not talk about this.
No.
So She actually stole my thunder a little because I was
Ah,
going to say this same thing. So that's okay. This is why you're my mom and I love you. So you said one of those pronouns was not there and you were surprised.
no, it was one of the
Not a
W's.
pronoun, one of the W's. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, we can do a drum roll. Do you want to reveal which one was not there?
Oh God, let's see my memory, my short-term memory. I think it was why.
Exactly. It was
Yeah,
why. Why is not on the list of 100
right.
most common words, which is surprising to me and should be surprising to all of you as much as we say the word why
Why?
around here at the KUADRC. Like, why do people get Alzheimer's? Why do I eat avocados? Why should I see that great movie Why that KUADRC has produced? So surprising me that why was not one of those most popular words. All
So
right.
why is it not on the list?
Why is it not on the list? I don't
Yeah.
know. Thank
Um,
you. Okay. I see in the chat a guess of the. Do you say the or the? I don't know. I think I say both. Um,
mhm.
Person in the chat, you are correct that that is one of the most commonly used words. I'm about to show you the list, and I just realized the list that I have is in alphabetical order. It's not in frequency order. So I don't know, but maybe can Google while we're talking today. We can find out what is the number one word, which might be the. I don't know, but I do know that here comes on the next screen, if I can get myself back to the right place. Here comes the list of the 100 most popular words in English, most common. Most
Mhm.
common, is that the same thing as most popular? I guess. Most frequently used. So
Mhm.
um, take a look at these and see if you see anything that you weren't expecting, or if you don't see something that you were expecting. If you want to let us know, aha, I totally knew that was going to be on there. You can feel free to speak up or use the chat. And while you do that, we are going to do our first brain booster together. I've come up with one. You might want to get a piece of paper to do this. You're welcome to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But I want you to take a look at these words, these 100 most common words in English. And I want you to see if you can make one or more sentences using as many of these words as you can.
Mhm.
And yep, we have someone in the chat who has noticed the other one that I was very surprised by. No is there. No is
Mhm.
commonly used, but not yes.
Right.
What do we think about that? I feel like I say yes to a lot of things. Like, yes, I would like to have that delicious snack. Yes, I will go for a walk. Yes, I will go to Atlanta. Yes, I will join the Brain Booster and the webinar every week. Um, I don't, but yes is less common than no. Isn't that interesting? I don't know what that says about us English speakers.
I have a
Yes,
thought.
okay.
My thought is that, and it's not a positive thought, but maybe the most frequent assumption is no,
Yeah,
is that people will say no,
maybe.
and they don't have to say no. They just don't
They
do
just
it.
don't.
Yeah.
You know,
So maybe.
you might be on something. One of the things I have taught for a long time in my family series class, or the family series class that we offer, is that when we are talking to someone who's experiencing cognitive change and we ask them a question that can be answered yes or no, very often the answer is no,
Mhm.
because of stubbornness, orneriness, or plain old, this is too much for me.
Or
And it's
fear.
easier, or fear. And it might be easier for me to just say no than yes in some cases. So I can't promise you that that's the truth, but it's an interesting thing to think about. I see in the chat two comments. We don't see is, has, or was very often on this, or at all on this list. And we also have some insight that people nod instead of saying the actual word yes. Could
Mhm.
be body language matters, the way we express ourselves and present ourselves. Thank you all. Oh, I didn't mean to skip the comment about whether these are written or vocal. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I'll look it up. I'll find out. I just honestly, I'll tell you my strategy. I just Googled most common words in English. And this was one of the results that came up that seemed like it was trustworthy.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It may be a combination of spoken and written. It may be one or the other. We'll have to find out. I see Dr. Beyer has pointed out that we see the numbers 1 and number 2, but not the number 3 on this list. Yeah. Are 1 and 2 the only numbers on here? I believe so. So isn't that interesting? We could probably spend the rest of the webinar talking about this list, but I suppose we should probably go on. I don't know if any of you have taken the time to write some sentences. I did, and I worked hard to make, not that hard, but I made 3 sentences using only the words on this list, and I only used each word once, I think. You can tell me if I'm not right about that. I'll go to the next slide, which is coming here any minute now. Not this slide, because we already talked about that. Okay, so here are the 3 sentences that I came up with, and I tried to make them fit the topic. So my 3 sentences are, people say these have some use. Would you do that also? I want you to think so. And so you can probably read that hidden message in there that I want you to think that this is useful. And so I used, I don't know, how many is that? 20 words or so from the most popular list to make these 3 sentences. And it wasn't hard for me to do, but I did have to sit and focus on it. I had to really think. And I'll tell you, in the first round, I had people say these have some use. Would you say that also? But I didn't want to repeat say. So I had to find a different verb for say. So I came up with do. And of course, I want you to think so. I think we all realize we say the word I a lot, don't we? And probably want. And one other thing I noticed, maybe some of you noticed, that there are not really any plurals, not very many plurals on this list. The only plurals that I saw on the list are people, these, those, them, they, and we, but not us. Interesting. But no other plural words on the list. I'll go back, maybe, in case you think I'm just making this up. I didn't see any other plural words on this most commonly used list other than people, and then the pronouns for multiple people, but not us, only we. So fascinating the way language evolves. Be interesting to see if other languages have a similar outcome. I'll have to find a Spanish list somewhere, and maybe other people who speak other languages could tell us about that. So thank you, you all. I am watching the chat and watching the screen. So I want to get on to some of our other problems, not problems, but boosters. And I hope you found this as nerdily fascinating as I did, this list of 100 most common words. All right, so the next slide is actually, one before what I was thinking. Just because I can Google and I like the way words work together, I Googled to find out where the word sentence comes from, and it's from both Latin and French. Apologies, I'm not a speaker of either one. So sentir or sentire and sentencia in French, or at least that's how you'd say it in Spanish. And both of them kind of mean to feel or have an opinion. And that gives us the word sentence. We declare things. In my hotel here in Atlanta, there's a big sign by my room that says, well, I declare. I think that must be a nod to Southern hospitality or Southern lingo. But sentences mean we are declaring something. In Spanish, the word for sentence is oración, and that's actually also the same as the word for prayer, which is really interesting. And then you can see on the right, I have some lyrics in red to a song that I have loved for a long time by an artist I think is fantastic, and that's Whitney Houston. And she has a really fun song called Lover for Life. And she sings in the sentence, in the song, will you sentence me to be your lover for life? And she has a bunch of puns, as you can see, about testimony and evidence and crimes of passion. And it's just great. So I put that in there for no other reason than I just thought it was fun. Okay, so now I'm going to turn things over to my wonderful colleague, David, and I'll check the chat while David might tell us. David, if you wouldn't mind, from your astrophysicist smart background, why do we like brain boosters? Why are they fun? What do they do for us?
Well, brain boosters, they give us stimulation. And when we get stimulation, mental or physical or any other kind of stimulation, our brains react. I mean, if you stub your toe, that's a stimulation and you react. Uh, if you uh, if you think of a good pun, that's a stimulation and you react. If you uh, if you taste something that is exceptional or even off, that's a stimulation and your brain reacts. So anytime there's stimulation, you you get mental stimulation, and that mental stimulation uh, helps us to be more alive. We
Mm.
When we see beautiful flowers, we don't have to try to think that's beautiful. It just is. And it stimulates us and it gives us, you know, uh, a warmth in our hearts because, our heart probably beats a little bit faster when we see something beautiful, when we smell beautiful flowers or taste wonderful lasagna. So uh, it, that's sort of my quick take on that.
I love it. Um, so from again the point of view of an astrophysicist, Dr. Beyer, um, or from the point of view of you, who has been a long time loyal LEAP. Oh, look at all those L's. Long time loyal LEAP person and my Alliance subscriber. Are you saying that brain boosters are good for the brain? Is it a true statement?
Well, I, I I certainly believe so because when we keep our brain active and alive, we can interact better with our surroundings and with people. You know, being engaging your brain is very, very important to mental health. And as an astronaut trainer, everybody when I was training people, like to go up onto the uh, space station or to go up on a ride on the Vomit Comet or something like that. It Everybody was focused. You were totally focused, and so when you are just absolutely engaged, uh, your brain is alive. And so when you engage your brain in any type of activity, uh, you stay more cognitively aware. Whether that's uh, learning a new language or even listening to music or singing along with music, all those things are stimulating your brain, or doing word puzzles or math puzzles or jigsaw puzzles or logic puzzles or lateral puzzles or um, riddles. All those things just make your brain, twist a little bit differently, so that you're engaged and you are active. Your brain is active. Um, it,
Yeah, I think that's what brings us here in lots of ways. It's why I have the job that I do. I think I'd like to think I'm contributing to all of that. And I know that the researchers here at the ADRC are also doing that. So thank you for the affirmation. Okay, I want to go to at least one more. I have several brain boosters, as Dr. Beyer could tell you, more than we probably can get to in this time. But let's do one. We talked about words a lot because I'm very biased as an English major and a social worker. But here's a riddle in case anybody is a grandparent or a grandchild and has birthdays coming up. You might want to try this parlor trick out. And this is here's the story. Hoping to avoid spending a lot of money on little Johnny's birthday present, Grandpa offered to give him in dollars the largest two-digit number that little Johnny could think of. So, math heads, what is the most amount of money that Johnny could receive? Oh, don't look at the answer. Shoot. I hope you didn't see that. I'm glad I only said shoot. Well, you might have seen the answer. But anyway, what's the most money we think Johnny could get? And if you were
Mhm.
thinking I have no idea, you probably weren't thinking of the number you just very briefly saw on the screen. I promise that was not planned. Okay, so anyway, can I have somebody to tell me, either in the chat or out loud, what number might you suggest that little Johnny tells Grandpa that he wants?
$1 million.
I knew somebody was going to see that. My own mother. We're talking about numbers with commas, huh? How could we start with a 2-digit number and get to $1 million? By the way, that's wrong.
Okay.
I'm only saying that to my mother because I can. I wouldn't tell the rest of you that. Okay, darn it. We only have a few more minutes, so I'll go ahead and reveal the answer and I'll explain to you why it works. Little Johnny could get as much as
Wow.
$387,489. That's 9 digits, or 11 if you count the zeros. What 2 digits are we using here?
9.
9 and 9. Now listen, my English major brain saw this question and said, oh, of course, 99, right? That's the biggest 2-digit number. So Johnny should ask for $99, and little Johnny's going to get a good payday if he gets $99. And then I found the answer from this great brain game book that I have, that I bought for actually 99 cents. How about that? And if we do 9 to the power of 9, 9 times 9 times 9, 9 times, this is the answer we come up with. I checked it with a calculator. I didn't check it by hand because I'd probably still be calculating. But if we believe our calculator, this is correct. So starting with just 2 digits, we could get as much as $387 million. And you can see in the box off to the right, there's a little graphic of how you might arrive at that. Basically, just keep multiplying 9 by itself until you get 9 times. And that number is 387 million. And if I can say a little more social work thing about that, I think that's very demonstrative of just starting with something pretty small, like one brain booster, one newsletter, and spreading it out to 8,500 people and meeting with you every Thursday. We start with this one small thing and look at all we can do in terms of promoting our brain health. So keep that in mind. We'll go to, let's see, I don't remember what the next one is. And I also am aware we only have just a few minutes. So how about this one, because it's next. I want you to take a look at the numbers. I don't know that we'll take 2 minutes. We'll take a few seconds. Just look at this list of numbers and see how many of them you can remember. If you're out there thinking you'll just take a screenshot or write them down, good for you. That's very smart. That is a strategy you may employ. If you want to test your power of your own memory a little more, don't do that. Just try to remember these numbers. And we'll take a few more seconds. And I'll just tell you that, again, this is only for entertainment, really. I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not telling you that if you got any of these right or wrong, that means anything other than you spent some time with me this afternoon. So please, please do not call Dr. Burns and say, Kelly G did a memory test on me, and what does that mean? Because no, I did not, and it means nothing, okay? All right, so we're gonna go to the next screen. All right, anybody know the answer to any of these in any particular order? What is the only number that appears in every row? What number was in the 4th column 3 times? What number appears twice in the 3rd column? What number is at the end of the 1st row? And what number never appears? If you think you know the answer to any of those, feel free to speak up. You can unmute yourself, or you can put it in the chat. You can even say, oh, please, Kelly, no one could know that. And that is a legitimate answer. Even I don't know, and I got the question out of my brain book. And I had to very carefully copy it down. All right, so I see a couple of folks in the chat. Oh, thank you, commenter. It's hard to focus when Kelly is talking. You could say when Kelly is running her mouth and not letting you pay attention. I'm entertaining. Well, good. I'm glad that you feel that way. And also an answer, you say 0, and I think you mean the answer to what number never appears. You are correct. The number 0 never appears. I don't know why. I didn't write the puzzle. And I saw my co-presenter, Dr. Byer, I saw you put the number 1 up. Do you want to tell us why you put the number 1 up?
The number that appears 3 times down in the 4th column.
The
Mhm.
number that appears 3 times down in the 4th column is a 1. Let's see if he is correct.
Mhm. Right.
Yes, very good. Good job. And here's some confirmation that the number 0 is not listed, but 1 through 9 are all listed. The number that appears the most, if you want to look real quick, is the number 6. It's on every row. I don't know if it's the most, or I don't remember if the question was it's the most or it's on every row, but anyway, that's it. And the number that is at the end of the first column is 5. And 7 is the answer, but I don't remember the question. What number appears twice down the 3rd column? I think that might be 7. So anyway, that was just a quick memory test for you. What is it testing? I don't know. I don't know that it's testing that your memory works or doesn't work. It's testing your recall for a few moments, which might be meaningful. Mostly it's not going to be diagnosable. You cannot do a test like this to tell if someone has dementia. If someone gives you a test like this and says you do or don't have Alzheimer's, walk very carefully away from that person and don't give them any money, because they are not testing you in a way that's meaningful. Okay. And I make a lot of jokes and comments, but please, people, take me seriously. Don't let this be anything other than entertainment. Mr. Holtis, how you doing?
I'm here.
I'm glad.
Well, just to critique the whole thing is that I think you did you did the test
Yeah.
backwards to do it. No, because we didn't know we didn't know what we were to remember.
That is
How
true.
about the next time you try this?
Yeah.
Here's a set of questions.
Yeah.
Now we're going to show you a set of numbers
Oh,
that
I
those questions
see.
apply to.
Uh-huh.
Now I have a reference for a memory test.
I see.
See,
That
I
probably
will
is,
remember the question
yeah.
and then
That
look for it.
probably is more fair. In my defense, I don't think I have the book with me, or do I? I do. This number thing I got right out of this book right here. Oh, you can't see it because I have a background on. Just trust me. It's called Brain Games, Who Done It? And it's on page 100 or so. And it shows the numbers first and then the questions. But you're right. It probably would be better to ask the questions first and then show the numbers so you know what to pay attention to.
See, then we would know what we were relating
Then
to.
you would
See,
know.
I thought I read it to mean I tried to remember the sequence
The
of numbers
sequence.
in each
Okay.
row when you said remember these numbers.
Uh-huh.
See, I don't know how many other people in.
Well,
I'm in a cohort for this
yes.
memory number stuff, and so that we know. See, they ask us the question when we're gonna give you numbers. Here's what we
Yeah.
want you to do. So
Uh-huh.
I remember the question and then I look for the answer. See, you
Right.
were asking us to look for the answer before we knew the question.
Well, that's because I watch Jeopardy every night.
Right.
Because you're guilty of cruel and unusual punishment. That's why. I'm 92 years old. I can't take these beatings too much longer.
No. Okay. You can sentence me to some terrible, terrible punishment. I love it. This is why I love doing these brain boosters and doing this webinar, because I can never get too far away from somebody telling me what's what. So thank you. All right, folks, I know it's past time and I'm probably supposed to get back to my meeting. So here's what I'm going to do. I have 2 or 3 more activities left, and I think that I'll just save them for the webinar, or the MyAlliance newsletter. I got 3 weeks left of questions to ask you that I don't have to come up with on Sunday night at 11 o'clock, because I never do that. The newsletter is always ready by 5 o'clock on Fridays. So I am going to stop sharing for just a moment, because I don't want to spoil anything any worse than I already did. And say again to you all, where am I? Thank you for being here today. I hope that you enjoyed that, and I hope you realize that your brain is just fine. And if it is not, you have a great resource in the KU ADRC. Next week's speaker is Dr. Mary Ryan, and Dr. Ryan is a nurse practitioner, and she is a family caregiver, and she approached me with the topic of finding the joy in caregiving. And she has sent me her slides and they're lovely. So she will join us next Thursday at 2 o'clock Central. I will be back in Kansas City, so I won't have to worry about which clock to find. And she's going to talk to us about those notes. And watch your My Alliance newsletter next week, because at least one of the boosters we didn't get to today, I will translate to the newsletter, because that's less work for me to do. Good job. Okay, Dr. David Byer, thank you so much for being with us today and for inspiring us and sharing your knowledge. Thanks all of you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kelly.